Check out part 1 for the opinion of United States and Western Europe. Let us look at the second part, the opinions and reasons given by the Russian side why this war happened. We ended with NATO. Let's explain what NATO is. It stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO was created just after Second World War, actually as a result of Second World War. It's an alliance. It consists of originally of two North American countries, United States and Canada, and mostly countries from considered Western Europe as a protection against potential danger like what happened in Second World War. In the years just after Second World War, until the end of Soviet Union, NATO was very active against Soviet Union. It basically was in Cold War with Soviet Union. Russia points out that after the end of Soviet Union in 1991, then there is no reason for hostility against Russia. It is time for the West, for NATO to be more friendly with Russia. It should welcome Russia. But according to Russia, NATO was still hostile against Russia. In fact, even though they promised in the end of Soviet Union to not expand NATO, they expanded year by year NATO territory to be including countries that are at the borders of Russia. In 1999, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland joined NATO. In 2004, the following countries joined NATO: Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia. And last, these countries, without specifying the year, joined also NATO: Albania, Croatia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia. All those countries joined NATO. These countries lie in the west and southwest of Russia. All those countries joined NATO except Russia itself. In fact, there are videos of Vladimir Putin. You can also check just the videos about him thinking about Soviet Union was a tragedy. You can check these videos. He says that he directly asked US President, can Russia join NATO? And they said clearly no. So by expanding NATO to all countries in the border of Russia, and of course putting dangerous weapons in these borders, plus not letting Russia join, these are all considered act of hostility against Russia and could put Russia in danger, just like what happened in Second World War, for example. That's what Russia says. Russia also points out that NATO maybe is not the good guy that many maybe think. War crimes committed by NATO in all Yugoslavia countries, which is a very sad topic still today for Serbia and parts of Bosnia. Russia also points out war crimes committed by NATO in Iraq. All right, let's go to the 2013 and 2014 events which we described earlier, which was massive protests in Ukraine, which led to take out the pro-Russian president and have a more pro-Western president, which ended up with Russia taking control of Crimea. Well, according to Russia, these protests were not so free. According to Russia, it was aided by the West. According to Russia, it was a plan to make the region a problem and to take away this pro-Russian and make it more Western. It's all a plan. Also, when this new government came, which supposed to be democratic, according to Russia, used Ukrainian forces to attack Russian people in Ukraine. As you might know, a lot of Ukrainians are Russians, especially in the region of Donbass. It is for under this period when these protests happened, when new government came, actually people of Crimea took control of Crimea. And actually there is a referendum, which Russia refers to it, asking Crimean people if they want to join Russia or stay with Ukraine, and they wanted to join Russia. The will of people, they wanted to join Russia. And according to Russia, it is for the protection of Crimea, so it will not be attacked like Donbass. It is the will of Crimean people, which are majority Russian. This part is fact. I'm not going to say all these other, I'm going to use word opinion, but Crimea is majority Russians. They wanted themselves to be part of Russian Federation. It is after all these events, both protection and the will of people, that Russia took control of Crimea. Then let's go to the last part, which is 2022, the war itself. Well, we mentioned that NATO expanded to all these countries around Russia. For Russia, two things were the red line. First of all, Ukrainians attacking Russians in Ukraine, like Donbass region, and killing them. That was a red line for them. The other one is that it's not a question of free country or not Ukraine joining NATO. It is security of Russia. Ukraine is very close to Moscow, actually, the capital of Russia. And putting weapons, dangerous weapons there, it's a very, very dangerous for Russia. And it is further act of hostility, further expansion of NATO around Russia. So it was red line for Russia. No, you put us in danger. No, you cannot kill Russians. That's why, according to them, they attacked Ukraine. Russia points out to something that looks like a hypocrisy. You can check it in internet. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. It's not from today, but it's a very important doctrine which is relevant to this argument, according to Russia. The Monroe Doctrine is basically says Europe, and if you take today even Asia, is not allowed to make alliance or interfere with these the countries in the Americas. So for example, China, if China wants to make a military alliance with Canada, which is a neighbor country of the United States, this is a hostile act towards United States, and United States will not accept that China and Canada will have a military alliance. Then Russia says this is very hypocritical of you. You don't allow it, but it's okay for Ukraine, which is close to us, to have alliance with you guys, because NATO, basically, United States is a very important part of NATO. So it's okay for NATO to have this alliance and to be in the borders of Russia. So alliance between United States and Ukraine, it's okay, but it's not okay. It's a hostile act if there is alliance between China and Canada. So if we make it short, just like we did for the United States and Western Europe side, Russia thinks that the protests in 2013 and 14 were aided by the West. It's not really democratic. There are, according to the Russian side, there are genocides of Russians in eastern Ukraine and east-south Ukraine. According to Russia, Crimea, wanted by itself, because majority are Russians, wanted to join Russia. According to Russia, NATO has been hostile the whole time, even after the Soviet Union was finished. They expanded NATO year by year, and put weapons on the borders of Russia. And that United States is hypocrite, having their own Monroe Doctrine, not allowing alliance between, for example, in my example, China and Canada, but it's okay between United States and Ukraine as part of NATO. You can make your opinion which side is correct. Thank you very much for listening.